Evening, folks. Brian here, Geomagnetic Earthwatch, Friday, June 20, 2025. I'm revising my video talk on the discussion of the 3,600-year intersection timeline of the binary system approaching us. We can change it to Earth's 3,600-year disaster cycle. It's not 6,000 years. Cover story. It's 3,600 years, approximately. The intersection of the approaching binary system, planet, whatever you want to call it. Now, there's some very well-respected gentlemen who have dedicated much of their entire life's work, study, and research into the subject of the intersection of the binary system coming in. Sal. These people are John Moore, the Liberty Man. I've mentioned him lots of times. Carlos Ferradas, the Chilean astronomer scientist who put in almost 59 years study, research, observation. In his language, he calls it Herculebus. People like Zachariah Sitchin, who has studied the Sumerian texts, clay tablets. There's also a gentleman by the name of Gil Brouchard, who I don't follow, and others. And if I say this name again, the last time I said it, it triggered something on YouTube. Deleted the comments. Let's try it again. Robert S. Harrington, who was head of the U.S. Naval Observatory. The government appointed him back in the early 1980s to locate and track planet. Shortly after he went public, he developed sudden onset pharyngeal throat cancer. They, him. To name some of the professionals. Now, there's also going to be people put in place by the government, spooks, to try and steer away or deny without providing any evidence whatsoever to their claims that it does not exist. And I find that highly, what's a word I can use? Suspicious? So if someone were to say to you that the intersection of the binary system and another source of information also suggests that it's two inbound systems, that would line up with the Hopi prophecy of red Kachina, blue Kachina. If someone were to say to you, this happens every 3,600 years, approximate. Now, according to one of their researchers, it was last 3,654 years, approximate. If someone were to say that to you, you would have to think, okay, well, wouldn't there be some catastrophic events on planet Earth responding to an approaching celestial body coming in? And if you were to do that research yourself, you will find that indeed every 3,600 years there are catastrophic earth-changing events, major climate shifts, sudden temperature drops, and other changes, all recorded in Earth's history. Now, I've already done this talk, but I came across another person's research today from SOT Focus, spelled S-O-T-T, Focus. I will provide the link. It's quite lengthy, actually. Now, his person's works covers a lot, and it misses a lot. I cover a lot, I miss a lot. This is why sometimes I like to combine all the information together. It's a blend of my own. Now, the data is recorded in ice core samples, for the most part, which reveals sudden spikes in elevated sulfur dioxide concentrations and temperature drops. So let's start off with 3,653 years ago. There was the catastrophic eruption of Thera, now known Santorini, the Greek volcanic island that's been receiving many thousands of earthquakes. And seismic activity in the entire region is continuing. Back then, it also generated a tsunami 100 feet high. There is also a sudden drop in temperatures. But the Thera, now called Santorini eruption, only accounted for 5% of the dust ejected into the atmosphere. The same time period, on the Alaska Peninsula, a volcano called Aniakchak, Aniakchak, erupted. Vesuvius also erupted, as did St. Helens. So combined, Thera, 5%, Vesuvius, 15%, St. Helens, 2.5%, and the one in Alaska, 20%. We are still missing 58% dust ejections, not accounted for. Suggestion: direct asteroid impact, or an atmospheric airburst explosion, like the one that happened in Russia, can generate lots of dusts thrown into the atmosphere. Also, there's some ancient Chinese records which revealed something like a comet passage at that timeline, 3,653 years. Also, Chinese notes the earth shook, as in an earthquake, and other Chinese notations, stars falling like rain, meteorites. Now we're going to jump ahead. We're going to add on another 3,600 years. This brings us to the 7,200-year timeline. There were 15 major events that century and another sharp temperature drop. There are also high levels of mercury, which is very rare, found on Earth, but not from meteorites. And a sudden increase, once again, in sulfur dioxide concentrations. The largest spike in 70,000 years. Now, 7,275 years ago was the Kekei caldera eruption, which is southern Japan. So large was this eruption, it ejected between 332 to 457 cubic kilometers of volcanic materials. Now we're going to keep on adding 3,600. This brings us to the timeline 10,800 years ago. Another temperature drop. Intense climate change event. Large concentrations of bromide, which is only low concentrations in the Earth's crust. As with from meteorites, low. The oceans, however, do have large amounts of bromine. Now, these concentrations were actually found in Switzerland, hundreds and hundreds of miles away from any seas or oceans. Possibility. Asteroid impact into the ocean. That data shows increased atmospheric concentrations 20 times more bromide. Also on that timeline, 10,800 years ago, there were lower atmospheric dust concentrations and not as cold as previous events, temperature drops. An asteroid impact into the ocean would be less impactful than being on land. Now we're going to keep on adding 3,600. This brings us to 14,400 years ago. A dramatic increase in methane and carbon dioxide. Ice core samples show sudden spikes in calcium and sulfur concentrations. This can also be the source of a comet's impacts. Methane and CO2 are also two of the main gaseous elements from a comet's tails. So when you combine all of the sudden spikes in CO2, methane, calcium, sulfur, this will result in sudden global temperature decreases. At that time period, there was also an extinction level event of large fauna, large animals. There is also several large crater impact evidence in the northern hemisphere, narrowed down to this timeline of 14,400 years. There's also what's called the meltwater pause 1A event, which started at the 14,400 year mark. A large water release. The contradiction is this occurred during a long cooling period, which usually means sea levels drop. So how could this be? A large impact event again to the ice sheets, causing it to rapidly melt, and at the same time, rapid global cooling because of the dust and other materials released into the atmosphere, blocking the sun. We can keep on adding 3,600, brings us to the Zealandia switch event, another sudden climate change. You can keep on adding 3,600 years. It can be an approximation. So, sulfur and dust spikes are found in ice core samples, which is a proxy for volcanic eruptions, or the release of sulfur dioxide by other means. And so the past 16,000 years, there were 62 spikes in SO2, sulfur dioxide concentrations, but only 14 are associated to volcanic eruptions. So where or what is the source for the remaining emissions? Do you remember my video of January of this year? That large global spread of sulfur dioxide. Then all the reports of the smell of sulfur dioxide throughout New York, New Jersey area at the same time as the drones and the UAVs, that the government absolutely lied to you and said they were all authorized by the FAA and the rest were recreational. I bring in my blend of suggestions. Outer core expansion, the pressure rising up through the lithosphere, punching through fracture zones, cracks. One more thing. We have to introduce the Miyake events. A Miyake event is an extreme solar particle event, super flares. Much bigger than the Carrington event. Very interesting because they fall into some of the 3,600 year timeline. One was 7,284 years ago. Another one, get this folks, 14,375 years ago. Super flare event. So in conclusion, Earth's history clearly shows catastrophic events happen every 3,600 years, approximate. You could put that at 3,600 to, say, 3,625 to 50 years. Okay. Ice core data shows this increase in concentrations in dusts and sulfur dioxide levels. And again, not all SO2 levels can be traced to major volcanic eruptions. There's evidence of impactor events, asteroids, such as the one in Greenland, a 1.5 mile wide asteroid. It's buried underneath the ice. As well as evidence scattered all around the planet, yet covered up by many years of vegetation and tree growth, and they could have been altered around by earthquakes and other seismic activity. Certainly in northern Canada, there's lots of evidence of asteroid impact events. And now, folks, now we are being programmed. We are being conditioned. Yes, I've seen that news article from The Independent about Earth could soon be flung out of orbit or into the sun, all thanks to a passing star. I'll put the link into that one too. There's been a lot of predictive programming for those who are awake to see it. Lots of articles about the Earth's axis is tilting. Now they're using the excuse too much groundwater in extraction by India. Lots of news about big rocks coming our way. A revised trajectory of one of the big rocks expected to hit the moon. And so on. Lots of news articles about atmospheric changes in our planet. I'm going to close, I think, in one of the articles I'm going to include. There was a gentleman, an Oxford astrophysicist, Victor Clube, C-L-U-B-E. I'll refer you to his quote. I found quite fitting. And he says, I quote, "Cynics would say we do not need the celestial threat to disguise Cold War intentions. Rather, we need the Cold War to disguise celestial intentions." End quote. We're at the 3,600-year timeline now. Past history shows us not a single major volcanic eruptions. Multiple, all at the same time. Santorini, last count that I saw was 17,000 earthquakes. And that seismic activity is just spreading all around that Greek island region. Southern Japan. Kekei caldera, that was the one 7,200 years ago. It's heating up. There's some sort of prophecy or talk about southern Japan's going to slide into the ocean from a massive earthquake. The area around Italy, I was the one who started telling you that when Santorini started kicking up, pay attention to southern Italy. Not just the common knowledge Campi Flegrei. That whole area. Again. The alert warning for Mount Spur in Alaska. That region again. And so on. And finally, may not be related, maybe it is. The Deagle Report. The Deagle organization is a think tank, intelligence, military intelligence, who reports to the U.S. government, NSA, and Fortune 500 companies. Who did a report in 2014. They retracted it in 2021 during the predicting a substantial population reduction by the year 2025. And look where we're at right now. What's happening? What is about to happen? It's all recorded in Earth's history. Nobody can deny it. You have to come up with an explanation of what causes it. The Bible describes what causes it. And all those distinguished gentlemen I just mentioned, their combined knowledge and research well exceeds 100 years. And well exceeds a spook put in by the government to deny the existence. This suspicious one. I think that's about it for now, folks.